Book of Heaven Volume 2, Call of the Creature to the Order, the Place and the Purpose for which he was created by God, by the servant of God Luisa Piccarreta. Page 12-17. March 14, 1899, the evil of man forces God to chastise him. This morning, my most sweet Jesus, transporting me with him, made me see the multiplicity of the sins that are committed. They were such and so many, that it is impossible to describe them. I could also see a star of enormous magnitude in the air, and within its roundness it contained black fire and blood. It would strike so much fear and fright in looking at it, that it seemed that death would be a lesser evil than to live in these times so sad. In other places, one could see volcanoes with more mouths opening, which are also to inundate the country nearby. One could also see sectarian people, who will go on causing fires. While I was seeing this, my lovable but afflicted Jesus told me, "Have you seen how much they offend me, and what I keep prepared? I am withdrawing from man." And as he was saying this, we both withdrew into my bed, and I could see that because of this withdrawal of Jesus, men would give themselves over to more awful actions, more murders. In a word, I seemed to see people against people. Once we had withdrawn, Jesus seemed to place himself in my heart, and he began to cry and sob, saying, "Oh man, how much I have loved you! If you knew how I grieve in having to chastise you. But my justice forces me to this. Oh man, how I cry and grieve over your lot." Then he would burst into tears and, again, he would repeat those words. Who can say the pity, the fear, the torment that arose in my soul, especially in seeing Jesus so afflicted and crying? I did as much as I could to hide my sorrow, and in order to console him I said to him, "O Lord, it will never be that you chastise man. Holy Spouse, do not cry, just as you have done the other times, you will do now, you will pour it into me, you will make me suffer, and so your justice will not force you to chastise the people." Jesus would continue crying, and I would repeat, "But, listen to me a little bit, have you not put me in this bed so that I might be victim for others? Have I perhaps not been ready to suffer the other times so as to spare creatures? Why do you not want to listen to me now?" But with all my poor speaking, Jesus would not calm himself from crying. So, no longer able to hold it, I too broke the deck of my crying, saying to him, "Lord, if your intention is to chastise men, I too do not have a heart to see creatures suffer so much. Therefore, if you truly want to send the scourges, and my sins no longer make me worthy to suffer in the place of others, I want to come, I want to be on this earth no more." Then the confessor came, and as he called me to obedience, Jesus withdrew, and so it ended. The following morning, I kept seeing Jesus withdrawn within my heart, and I saw that people would come even inside my heart, and would tread upon him and trample him underfoot. I would do as much as I could to free him, and Jesus, turning to me, told me, "Do you see where the ingratitude of man reaches? They themselves force me to chastise them, and I cannot do otherwise. And you, my dear one, after you have seen me suffer so much, may you hold crosses more dearly and pains as delights." March 18, 1899, Charity is Simple. This morning, my beloved Jesus continued to make himself seen from within my heart, and in seeing him a little bit more cheered, I plucked up courage, and I began to pray that he would not send so many chastisements. And Jesus told me, "What moves you, O my daughter, to pray me not to chastise creatures?" Immediately I answered, "Because they are your images, and if creatures should suffer, you yourself would suffer." And Jesus, heaving a sigh, told me, "Charity is so dear to me, that you cannot comprehend it. Charity is simple, just like my being which, though immense, is yet most simple. so much so that there is no place which it does not penetrate. So charity is, being simple, it diffuses everywhere, it has regard for no one, whether a friend or an enemy, whether a citizen or a stranger, it loves all. March 19, 1899, the devil can speak about virtue, but he cannot infuse it in the soul. This morning, as Jesus made himself seen, I was afraid it might not be truly Jesus, but the devil that wanted to deceive me. After I made the usual protests, Jesus told me, "Daughter, do not fear, for I am not the devil. Besides, if he speaks about virtue, it is a colored virtue, not true virtue, nor does he have the virtue of infusing it in the soul, but only of speaking about it. And if sometimes he shows he wants to make the soul practice a little bit of good, she is not persevering, and in the very act in which the soul does that little bit of good, she is listless and agitated. I alone have the power to infuse myself in her heart, to make her practice virtues, and suffer with courage, tranquility, and perseverance." And then, when has the devil ever gone in search for virtues? His hunting is for vices. Therefore, do not fear and be tranquil. March 20, 1899, the world has reduced itself to such a sad state because it has lost subordination to leaders, God being the first. This morning, Jesus transported me outside of myself and showed me many people, all in discord. Oh, how much this grieved Jesus! In seeing him suffer very much, I prayed him to pour it into me. But since he still continues in wanting to chastise the world, Jesus did not want to pour it into me. However, after I prayed him, to make me content, he poured a little bit. Then, being a little relieved, he told me, the reason why the world has reduced itself to such a sad state is that it has lost subordination to leaders, and since the first leader is God against whom they have rebelled, it happened as a consequence that they have lost any subjection to and dependence on the Church, the laws, and all the others who are said to be leaders. Ah! My daughter, what will happen to so many members infected by this bad example of the very ones who are said to be leaders, that is, superiors, parents, and many others? Ah! They will reach such a point that neither parents, nor brothers, nor kings, nor princes will be recognized anymore. These members will be like many vipers that will poison one another. Therefore, see how necessary chastisements are in these times, and how necessary it is for death to almost destroy this sort of people, so that the few who will be left may learn at the expense of others to be humble and obedient. So, let me do not want to oppose my chastising the people. March 31, 1899, the value of sufferings. This morning, my adorable Jesus made himself seen crucified, and after he communicated his pains to me, he told me, "Many are the wounds that made me suffer during my passion, but one was the cross." This means that many are the roads through which I draw souls to perfection, but one is the heaven in which these souls must unite. So, if one misses that heaven, there is no other which can make them blessed forever. Then he added, "Take a look, one is the cross, but this cross was formed with various pieces of wood. This means that one is heaven, but this heaven contains various places, more or less glorious, and these places will be distributed according to the sufferings suffered down here, more or less heavy. Oh, if all knew the preciousness of suffering, they would compete with one another to suffer more. But this science is not recognized by the world, and so they abhor all that can make them richer for eternity." April 3, 1899, humility without confidence is false virtue. After going through several days of privation and of tears, I found myself all confused and annihilated within myself. In my interior I kept saying, continuously, "Tell me, oh my good, why have you moved away from me? Where have I offended you, that you no longer make yourself seen, and if you show yourself, you are almost concealed and silent? Oh, please, do not make me wait and wait any longer, for my heart cannot take it any more. Finally, Jesus showed himself a little more clearly, and in seeing me so annihilated, he told me, if you knew how much I like humility. Humility is the littlest plant that can be found, but its branches are so high as to reach heaven, wind their way around my throne, and penetrate deep into my heart. This little plant is humility, and the branches which this plant produces are confidence, so there cannot be true humility without confidence. Humility without confidence is false virtue. From the words of Jesus, it shows that my heart was not only annihilated, but also a little discouraged. April 5, 1899, How Jesus Keeps Her Concealed in His Love. My soul continued in its annihilation and fear of losing sweet Jesus, when, in one instant, he made himself seen all of a sudden and told me, I keep you in the shadow of my charity, and since a shadow penetrates everywhere, my love keeps you concealed everywhere and in everything. What do you fear then? How can I leave you while I keep you so sunken within my love? While Jesus was saying this, I wanted to ask him why he was not making himself seen as usual, but Jesus disappeared from me immediately, and did not give me the time to tell him even one word. Oh God, what pain!